still won't go down. Look at this man. Duke Dive, touchdown.
More in overtime.
Hello and welcome. I'm Sam Erickson alongside my partner Michael Lawrence. We've got a great show for you tonight as we say goodbye to fall and look ahead to winter. And although it may be covered in snow a little early this year, we want to invite you to follow us as we head down the sports path.
That early winter means that the fall seasons are wrapping up, most state tournaments have concluded, and the Prep Bowl is just days away. So let's look ahead to what is coming, winter. And in Minnesota, that means the start of high school hockey.
And as teams prepare for action all over the state, we'll take a look at some preseason rankings of some of the top boys hockey teams in Minnesota. Edina, Lakeville North, Elk River, Wayzata, and Maple Grove comprise the top 5. A couple of our local favorites make the list, with Hill Murray coming in at number 11 and White Bear Lake at number 14. Something the two rivals will fight over all season, I'm sure. And North St. Paul also made the list of the top 50 teams in the state out of the Metro East Conference.
With so much action waiting in the regular season, the rankings are sure to change. But for a glance into the future, we'll let you know the dates and venues for the eventual sectional tournament for girls hockey in both Section Single 4A and Section 4AA. Class 4 Single A starts their tournament on February the 7th, with the ensuing rounds being held on the 10th and 13th. Those games will all be held at St. Thomas Arena. Section 4AA will start on February the 4th with a pigtail game followed by the quarterfinals on the 6th and 7th. The semis are on the 10th and the championship concluding matters on the 13th. The quarterfinals will be played in both Roseville and St. Croix Arena, with the semis and the final at historic Aldridge Arena.
Now we'll switch it over to the boys 4AA section tournament, as we'll be covering a few hopefuls here on TV19 Sports that look to take home that section crown. All games for this tournament will be held at Aldrich Arena, with the quarterfinals being played on February 21st, the semis on the 24th and 25th, and the final being 2 days later on the 27th. Let's hope at least one of our teams can make it to the world-famous Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament. And hockey isn't the only sport being played this time of year. We've got a lot of basketball in our winter lineup this year. We'll look ahead to see when our favorite schools might be playing their postseasons. The boys tournament will start on the 25th of February, with the higher seed playing host in those games. The semifinals and championship will follow on February 28th and March 5th, respectively. Those games will be held at East Ridge High School in Woodbury. The girls tournament will almost be identical, with the higher seeds hosting the opening rounds and East Ridge hosting the semis and the final. The dates of those games will be the opening round on the 4th, with the semis on the 7th and the championship on the 12th of March.
Well, that certainly has got me excited to get things fully underway this winter. We have had one game take place so far this season, with the Hill Murray girls hockey team losing out to the Eden Prairie Eagles last night 4-3. Tough loss for the Pioneers, but defeating the school the size of Eden Prairie is no easy task.
We'll shift focus once again and look ahead to this upcoming season and at one of the key players for Matamidai's hockey team, Jack Becker. Becker recently tried out and practiced with the Sioux Falls Stampede, a team from the United States Hockey League that drafted him as an affiliated player. Becker grabbed attention of the club while helping lead his team to a championship in the Upper Midwest High School Elite League, a league designed to help keep elite hockey players home and playing with their high school teams during the season, as opposed to leaving their schools early to attend preparatory schools or join developmental professional leagues. Becker says that the pace and physicality of play are definitely much different than in the high school game. And although this experience may have gained Becker a little extra attention, his time in the Upper Midwest High School Elite League and with the Stampede have got him excited to lead Matabidai going into his third year on the team.
What a great opportunity for that young man, and we wish Jack the best of luck in the future. Although Becker Zephyrs are one of the many teams that set the blade on the ice sheet at historic Aldridge Arena every season, another school in the Northeast Metro is making headlines because of unique partnership with the old ice rink. The Hill Murray boys hockey team has teamed up with Ramsey County to build locker rooms for the team on site at Aldridge Arena. The Pioneers have called the public facility home since before Hill High and Archbishop Murray joined forces. The decision and the subsequent 20-year lease is uncommon in that it involves a private school working with the public space. The deal will be no cost to the taxpayers due to fundraising efforts by the school and the community. The new facility will offer coaching offices, shower rooms, and on-site laundry. Most importantly, for the Pioneers, it will guarantee their teams get ice time and make the old arena feel even more like home.
As Hill Murray continues to build on their program, one school in North St. Paul is in jeopardy of having what they're trying to construct come to a halt. Bauer Emerson is an emerging preparatory academy with not only an emphasis on academics, but athletic training and sports as well. One of the most popular sports at the school, of course, is hockey. Students grades 7 through 12 attend the school to develop their skills and athleticism to help propel them to the next level, whether it be getting a college scholarship or being signed professionally. The school's interest in hockey also garnered the interest of another Bauer deeply involved in the world of hockey, Bauer Hockey Incorporated. The Vermont-based company is one of the biggest hockey brands in the world, holding a 53% market share and selling $175 million in products the last fiscal year. Because the Bauer trademark has been in use since the early 1970s, the company had one request of the school, and that was to cease and desist use of the name Bauer. Co-owners of the Bauer Emerson Prep Academy say the name is simply a combination of Bauer, the German word for farmer, which they feel represents a strong work ethic, and Emerson is a tribute to Ralph Waldo Emerson and his ideals of self-reliance. Matthew Resch, general counsel for Ability Academic and Athletic LLC, an organization that oversees the Bauer Emerson School, claims they only received one letter regarding the matter and that they did not reject it, but rather didn't accept it with the hope of furthering negotiations. And although it's disappointing, Resch feels that he's very optimistic that it will be resolved shortly.
Sounds like things are heating up even off the ice. Let's hope that cooler heads prevail.
Absolutely. To finish off our program tonight, here is KSTP and local sports personality Joe Schmidt sharing some of his all-time favorite sports memories.
A lot of people think, Joe, you got the best job in the world. You work 3 minutes a night. And you get to go to games for free. And when you're at the games, you sit on the 50-yard line, and they feed you when you're done. So that's the best job in the world. But I'm here to tell you, I sometimes think I have the most difficult job in the world. Because when that game is over, I got to go into a dirty, stinky, smelly locker room and get half-naked men to say something intelligent. So I'm talking to a baseball player. His team has just qualified for the World Series. And I go to him. I say, he's a veteran player. And I say, what's this like? You had to dream about this moment since you were a little kid. You're going to play in the World Series. And he looks at me and he says, Joe, I can sum up how I feel in 3 words. It don't get no better than this. We're out of the Minnesota Vikings. I'll go over to this side. We're out of the Minnesota Vikings, and a player got cut in the middle of the season. It was kind of a surprise. He was a veteran player. So we're out there, and we got the cameras rolling. We're standing outside Winter Park, and here he comes. And we say, hey, what happened? What happened? How come the Vikings cut you? How come the Vikings cut you? And he looks at the camera, and he says, no compliment. No compliment. I mean, a comment would have been nice. Last but not least, my favorite. College football player, the very first time he touches a ball in a game, he goes 100 yards for a touchdown. It happens on a kickoff return. So afterwards, we interview him, and the kid's all excited. His eyes are as big as saucers. His heart's a pumping. His corpuscles are pumping. And we say, describe the play. Tell us what happened. He says, it was great. I got the ball at the goal line. I ran to the 20-yard line. I saw a big hole, and that's where my instincts kicked in. It was like running from the cops. So now are you starting to feel my pain a little bit? Are you starting to feel my pain? Well, the truth is, like that football player, we all operate by our instincts. And those instincts lead to actions. And those actions either have a positive impact on the world around us or they have a negative impact on the world around us. The problem is sometimes in this busy, crazy, hectic world, we sleepwalk through the mundane to the monumental moments of our lives, not realizing that everything we do, everything we say, how we act, how we react, what our attitude is, what our body language is, it all leaves a mark. And what we all need to do is to wake up and to realize that we make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. We make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. I call that silent impact. That's what I've done my research on. That's what I've written my book on, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about here tonight. 13 years ago, Joe Mauer was a senior at Cretin-Durham Hall High School. Now, in every lunchroom, in every high school in the country, there is a cool table. And wherever Joe Mauer sat was the cool table. He was simply the greatest high school athlete Minnesota's ever produced. He was recruited to be a college football quarterback by all the major teams. He was an all-state guard in basketball. He led his team to a state championship. And he was simply the best amateur baseball player in the country, and the Twins drafted him with the very first pick in the draft. Joe was the BMOC, the big man on campus. He was tall, good-looking, and soon to be very rich. I would take any one of those three for 20 minutes. Every day after Joe's fourth-hour class, Joe walked a special needs student who was blind to the lunchroom, and he sat him down at his. And I said to Joe, I said, why did you do that? And he said simply, because it was the right thing to do. I guess you could say it was Joe's purpose. He had aligned his actions with his values, and because of that, he had great impact. I found Mike Hawley, the student who Joe walked every day. And I said, Mike, what did that mean to you to have Joe invite you to his table? He said it was great. He had never had a friend who was an athlete before. And now he had a lot of friends who were athletes. He said, they didn't bully me, but they kind of ignored me and shunned me because I was different. But now we talk sports every day at that table. So then I started to think, what kind of impact did it have on the others? I found 6 guys who sat at that table every day. All 6 remember conversations. All 6 remember days of laughter at that table. All 6 said that Joe would walk Mike to his next class after lunch. By the end of the first semester, these guys at the table would fight over who got to walk Mike to the next class. Wednesdays was pizza day at Cretin-Durham Hall High. And Mike would invariably spill some crumbs on his clothing and some pizza sauce in his chin or his cheek. Joe would nonchalantly grab a napkin, brush him off, wipe him off, get him ready for his next class. By the end of the first semester, they were all doing this. These are high school kids, the most selfish creatures on God's green earth. But Joe was making an impact because of his purpose. You'll start thinking about silent impact. We make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive, and you'll see it in every single phase of your life. I'm going to start you off with a history lesson. You know, the United States Constitution is one of the greatest documents ever written, and in that document, we are guaranteed certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all do pretty good at life. So far, everybody in this room is on the right side of the ground. We all do pretty good at liberty. We just voted last week. We have liberty. But sometimes where we fail is our pursuit of happiness. And if you want to pursue happiness, you need to be persistent in your positivity. You see, I live by the 90-10 rule. I think if we all look at our lives, 90% of our lives are good, if not great. 10% need work. 10% need work. Where people get out of balance, when you talk about having balance in life, where people get out of balance is when they spend 90% of their time on the 10%. If you want to have true balance in life, spend 90% of your time on the good stuff. That way you can stay persistent in your positivity. I have a preparation story about the new manager of the Minnesota Twins. I think he's going to be a good manager. You might think so too after this story. I was in Kansas City the night that Paul Molitor became the 21st player in Major League Baseball to get his 3,000th hit. It was a monumental moment in baseball. The next night, I'm there with my satellite truck driver and my cameraman. We got to the ballpark early because we had some logistics we had to work out. And who shows up early to the ballpark but Paul Molitor? And I said, Molly, I said, what are you doing here so early? He said, "Oh, I'm here for early batting practice. I don't like the way I'm swinging the bat right now." Early batting practice is for the subs and the scrubs and the rookies who are trying to make it. Here's a guy who made Major League Baseball history the night before, grinding and working just as hard the next day. Is there any doubt how he got those first 3,000 hits? And talk about a silent impact. What do you think the impact was on those guys, those kids, those subs, those scrubs trying to make it when they saw this guy who got 3,000 hit the night before working just as hard the next day? We make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive. I'm going to move on to passion. Passion. Think about people you like to be around in your life. And I guarantee you, they are passionate people. I married my wife because she's the most passionate person I know. Just the other night, I came home and she's sitting with a big glass of wine. And she says, "I love you. I don't know how I would have made it all these years without you." And I said, "Well, honey, I love you too, but are you sure that's not the wine talking?" She said, "Yes, I'm sure I was talking to the wine." So I've tried to figure out through the years, I have been lucky enough in my career to have one-on-one interviews with really the greatest athletes in our lifetime. And I pinched myself because once I realized I wasn't good enough to be a pro athlete, this is what I wanted to do. And I've had one-on-one interviews with Muhammad Ali, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Lindsey Whalen, Kirby Puckett, on and on and on. And I've tried to figure out, what do all these great athletes have in common? What sets them apart that makes them just a step better than everybody else? Well, you know, they're all rich. They all have amazing God-given talent. In Tiger's case, he's never lonely. But what they all have in common is the passion to be the best. And not only the passion to be the best, the passion to prepare to be the best, and the passion to compete against the best, because they know that makes them better. I covered a boxer in Minnesota that some of you old-timers might remember by the name of Scott LeDoux. Scotty LeDoux stepped in the ring with 8 heavyweight world champions, and he lost all 8 fights. They called him the Great White Hope, and Scott said it worked for him because he was white and he was hoping. Scott's best fight was against George Foreman. Now, this was George Foreman before he invented the George Foreman grill, and they ate a whole bunch of double cheeseburgers off that grill. George was a lean, mean fighting machine. And for 8 rounds, Scott LeDoux stood toe-to-toe with this human wrecking machine. And in the 8th round, Foreman poked LeDoux in the eye with his thumb. Scott's eye swelled shut that he couldn't see. The ref had to call the fight. LeDoux loses on a technical fall. Later in the locker room, the doctor is examining Scott. And the doctor looks down at him and he says, "Scott, I'm really afraid you're going to lose your eye." And Scott looks up at the referee with one eye and he says, "What's an eye when you've given your heart? What's an eye when you've given your heart?" I hope you have that kind of passion in what you do. I hope you have that kind of passion in your relationships, in your friendships, in your family. People love people with passion. They give you energy. They don't suck it away. I was telling my silent impact story to a friend of mine, and he called me a couple of days later and he said, "You know, I really get what you're trying to get, and I do get the idea that we make our biggest impressions when we're not trying to be impressive." And he said, "I got an email recently from a girl I went to high school with." Now, I went to high school with her 25 years ago, and the email went like this: "Dear Sam, this is Kristen. You probably don't remember me, but I certainly remember you. You were a senior and the star of the high school football team. I was an insecure, unpopular freshman. And one day I was getting bullied at my locker. Not just by any bully, but by a kid who had bullied me many times before, a kid who struck fear into my heart. You saw what was happening and you turned around, you came back, and you told the kid to knock it off, and if he ever did it again, he was going to have to deal with you. And then you grabbed my hand and you told me, if he ever comes back, you let me know. I will not let this happen again." She said, "Sam, I want to let you know something. You saved my life that day. I was in such a dark spot that I was going to go home and swallow a bottle of sleeping pills, hoping to never wake up, to never have that pain again. I just wanted to thank you." It's called the second thank you. when you go back and thank somebody who had that moment in your life, who had that moment that helped the arc of your life, that helped you become who you are today. If that person is here, thank them. Go back and thank them. And if they're not around anymore, find a brother or sister, a son or a daughter, and let them know what that person meant to you. My dad died 30 years ago in May, and somebody started a Facebook tribute to my dad, and there were stories of my dad had impact on that I had no idea. It made my day. It made my year. You see, influence is a skill. They call it a soft skill. I say a baloney. Influence is a skill everybody wants because it's the intersection of two very human traits. We all want to be liked, and we all want to leave a legacy. And finally, the secret to influence, the secret to being this person of impact, it's when you realize it's not about them liking you. It's about them liking themselves. And if you can be the person, the conduit to help make that happen, guess what? Someday you'll be on their Mount Rushmore to influence yourself. And when that magical moment happens, there'll be 3 words to sum up how you feel. It don't get no better than this. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Some great stories there by Joe Schmidt. Good evening all around.
Definitely. And Joe was out, he's promoting his latest book, Silent Impact. If you love those stories and you want some more like them, please pick this up. All those stories he was telling there kind of had that theme of how you impact people when you don't even know it.
Well, that's all the time we have for you tonight. Thanks for watching.
Kruger still won't go down. Look at this man. Duke, dive, touchdown.